Hello everyone. So in this video we'll learn about if statement. So this is one of the what they call conditional statements in Python. I mean, you find this in other programming languages as well, with a few syntax differences here and there. So let's dive right into it. So let's say we have two variables, x equals 1 for example, and y equals 100. And we want to test whether y is greater than x, or x is less than y, using if statement. So what we do is we use if, and we say, and we have the condition. The condition in this case is, for example, y greater than x, and then we have colon, hit enter. And if you hit enter, automatically it's going to indent it the right way, the correct way in Python. And you can use a whatever statement you want. You can say y is greater than x. So what is it saying is, so it gives you a condition and it tells you what do you do if that condition is true. So here we have print this statement right here, if y is greater than x. So if we run that, we'll have this output right here. So this is an example of a one statement code, if you will, a one statement. So if you notice here, the syntax is, using if with colon, and then you have an indent here. So this indent is actually 4 spaces. So if I don't put this indent, it's gonna, and I try to run this code, I'm gonna have an error. So in Python, the indent for if statement is actually 4 spaces, like I said. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the correct way. But if you only have one statement to print, like we have in this particular case, there's no other condition, only one condition, you can actually put that, shorthanded, if you will. You can put that in the in one line actually. So if I run this, it's still going to print, the correct result, because I only have one statement. So you can do it this way if you have one statement, but I'm used to, you can get used to doing it this way, because typically when you're writing a code, you can have multiple different statements. So just remember, the indentation here is extremely important in Python. So let's talk about these conditions here, because as you can tell, I'm using, this is just a math conditional statement here, greater than. So in Python, you can have equal, you can have not equal. So I'll put that here as a comment. So let's say equals. If I want to have a condition that says if, x equals, I don't just have one equal sign. It's going to be 2 equal signs in Python. So x equal y, this means equals, right? So in this case, the difference here is that you are assigning a variable, a number, to a variable. In this case, it's actually a condition. So that's really what the difference is. So you can have here greater, which we already seen. You can have less than, simple like that. So this is equal. And if you want to have not equal, that's going to be x, exclamation point, not equal y. So this is what it means, not equals. And if you want to have less than or equal to, just add an equal sign here, less than or equal to, and greater than or equal to is obviously, greater than or equal to. So just kind of remember that not equal, you use a different syntax here with the exclamation point. And if you want to have a statement that says equals, you're going to have to use 2 equal signs. Okay. So let's talk about the else, keyword, if you will. So the else is just going to catch pretty much anything that's not covered by the previous condition. So we can use this example, the above example. So what I'm saying here is that if y is greater than x, then print this. However, if that is not true, that's what the else means. If that's not true, then print something like, that's not true. Let's just say that's not true. Okay, so if we run this, obviously nothing has changed because y is still greater than x. But if I have, 1,000 here, let's run that, it's going to say that's not true. So if we walk through this statements right here, so what is it? What Python is doing is saying, okay, I'm gonna look at this condition right here. Oop. So Python is saying I'm gonna look at this statement right here. So if this statement is true, then this is what I'm gonna, this is what my output, what my result will be. If that's not true, else this is not true, then this is what I'm gonna print. So it's gonna run through this. X is 1,000, y is 100. Is y greater than x? Obviously, that's not true. So it's gonna print that's not true. Okay. And again, this is one statement only, one condition. So we can still put this in one line like this, all on the same line without using the different indentation. But this is the right syntax. If you just want to use one line, if y greater than x, else print this is not true. So let's run that. It's going to print the same thing. Okay, so if you want to use just one line, you can do it this way. If you only have one statement, okay, but if you have multiple statements like you usually do with if statements, I'd rather use the indent. So we can put it right where it was. So let me just copy this. The indent actually is a lot easier to kind of visualize, so you don't get confused. So, okay, column, yep, so let's run this to make sure, yep, so we're still good. Okay, but if you want to add, so this is just one, one statement, but if you want to add additional conditions, right, that's not necessarily covered by this, that's when you use elif, right? So elif is saying, if this is true, print this. But this is another condition, elif. So elif x, let's use one of these things right here, this other condition, x, y, say print they are equal or whatever. And you can add, multiple other conditions before you even hit this one right here. So let's say elif x not equal y, print there are not equal. Let's even, I wanted to add equal sign here, but that's okay. So it looks like this statement right here is probably not going to be printed because, the truth numbers, these statements already kind of covered, all the possible statements. But if I, for example, delete this one right here that says not equal, and I want to make sure, I run into both conditions, not being covered. So, so let's say I have 1,000 there and I have 100 here, and I run this, it's going to run to this right here. That's not true because this condition is not true. It's going to check this condition again, not true because they're not equal, and it's going to print the last statement, which is the correct statement here, because x is not equal to y, and y is not greater than x. Okay, so that's really the difference between elif and else. Elif is just another condition checking if the previous condition is not true, and else is pretty much catching anything that's not caught by the previous conditions, both if or elif. Any other condition that's not caught here is going to be printed in the else statement. Okay, so you can also use and if you want to combine conditional statements. So let's say I want to have two conditions, and I want to make sure I check both conditions to be true before I have a print statement. So let's say I check if y is greater than x and y, let's say maybe I should add another variable here. Let's say 99. So z is less than y, for example, less than y. I'll put here just as a statement, I'll say both conditions maybe are true. And let's try to run it. So this is just you can use and. What I'm trying to say is, like, you can use and to combine two statements as a logical, what they call, a logical operator. And you can also use or if you want to kind of check if either one is true. But let's run this one first. Let's make this greater. This might be confusing. Actually, let me just use like simple numbers. Let me use 10 here, and let me use 1. Let me use let me use 8. Let's run that. Okay, so both conditions are true because 10 is greater than 1, and at the same time 8 is also less than 10. If you can also use to combine statements by using the or statement. So it's going to check this or check this. So both conditions do not have to be both true, but only one of them. So let's say only one of the conditions is true. So let's run that. Yes. So basically it checks if this or this, not necessarily both, but just or. So or means it's going to check this one first. Maybe I could change this to 12. And let's run that again. So y is greater than x. That's not true, but we have a combined statement here that says or. So the or is saying, okay, this may not be true. This may be true or this one also. So check this one or this one. So it's different than the and, which has to check both conditions, which both conditions has to be true. But with the or, only one of the condition has to be true. So I just wanted to mention that you can combine conditions here. So let's move on to other examples here. Practical example. So let's ask a user to enter, for example, their favorite subject. So if the favorite subject is engineering, we'll have a statement. For example, if it's math, we'll have a statement, and if it's none of those, then we'll have a statement. So let's try to write that code. So let's say let's call a variable, say subject, and in this case we're not going to declare it. We're just going to ask the user to input that. So let's put input here, and let's say please enter your favorite subject. And to make sure it's in lowercase or uppercase, whatever, we can say subject dot lower to just kind of cover the way it's written, because this is going to be a string. So let's start using our conditions here. So if the subject is equal, and remember, we've talked about it here, right? The condition, if they're equal, so use two equal signs. So if the subject says engineering, because I declare here lower, so I'm just going to put it in lowercase, engineering. If the subject is engineering, okay, print, I want you to print this. Print, that's fun. That's, maybe that's fun or whatever. Else, if subject is, is math, okay? So subject is math, all lowercase. Then I want to print, remember the indentations here. I want to print not fun. Math is not fun, just as an example. So if none of those is true, then say, for example, subject not covered. I don't know, whatever. Not covered. So let's run this and see what we'll have. Okay, so here I'm the user. You ask me, what is your favorite subject? Let me do this. Just kind of make it pretty. So, yep, okay. So, what's your favorite subject? I'm gonna put science. Is it? You see? So because the first statement is not true, I didn't put engineering, I didn't put math, so it's going to print the last statement here that says, oh, it's none of these, it's none of these conditions, it's not math, it's not engineering. So let's try again. Please enter your favorite subject. Let me put engineering. That's fun because the subject that's entered is actually, engineering. So let's rerun this and say math. And it says math, not fun, So just kind of play around with it a little bit. But the important things here to remember is, the indentations and the different conditions as well. And yeah. So let's have the user input a number, for example, and then we'll see nested if. So that's just kind of saying, multiple if statements. But I kind of want to I want to show you how you do the indentations and how, each statement is covered. So let's say you have the user input a particular number. Let's say integer. Input. Please enter a number. Okay. So if the number entered is greater than 10, let's print, for example, greater than 10. If, the number that's entered, whatever number is entered is greater than 10, let's print that. If within this statement, the number entered is greater than, let's say it's greater than, 40, then print. And you see, you can kind of notice here, I guess I'll just continue this and I'll explain later. So print also greater than 40. Else, print not greater than 40. So what this is doing is you have these statements right here. nested if statement within this statement right here. Okay, so let's run through this. It probably would be easier if we run it. So let's say, let me stop this and run it again. Okay, so let's enter a number to make these statements true. So let's say I enter 30. Okay, so okay, 30. Okay, just to kind of put, oh, I'm just trying to make it pretty here. We can run this again. 30. All right, so please enter a number. You know, you ask the user to enter a number. The user enters 30. So 30 greater than 10. Yes, it is greater than 10. And within that statement is going to check if it's greater than 40. If it's greater than 40, it's going to tell you that it's also greater than 40. But if it's not, it's going to print this. Okay? We can also have another statement here for the original, the other, you know, the greater if statement. Because remember, these are within this statement right here. But this else statement is going to be, let's say, let's print outside of the loop or whatever, outside of the loop, kind of, or maybe not loop, but outside of the if statement, nested loop, nested if. Let's call that nested if, just to kind of make it clear here. Okay. Let's say 5. You see? So what I was saying was, so I entered 5, it checks if 5 is greater than 10. Nope, it takes it out of the statement. So basically, it's pretty straightforward, but just make sure you kind of clearly indent your statements so that even if you have multiple if statements, even if you have nested, you know, if statements, elif, whatever, if you put that in order, the right indentation, then it's going to flow really easily. So indenting is really the key when you're using these conditional statements. And I think that's pretty much it, what I wanted to cover as far as if statements. And let me know if you have any questions.